I'm great at handling my anger about people's reaction to She-Hulk. When people constantly post about it on YouTube and make videos about how much it sucks. I hear my brother say how it's absolute garbage and the girl bossification is ruining the MCU. When I get scared to voice my opinion because I feel like people will think that I'm just so left side feminist and raging and just absolutely hate men. I'm great at controlling my anger because if I don't, people will think that I'm just a man hater, that I am just out here wanting to girl bossify everything. The thing is, Bruce, I'm great at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you! Now, I do know that I am kind of late to the She-Hulk game. A lot of people have thrown out their videos already, and they've already handed in their judgments. She-Hulk sucks. That's the verdict. But, Ari Avenger, attorney at law, I'm here in defense of She-Hulk. It had some good qualities, it had some perks, it had some good times, and I am here to defend it. Ari Avenger, attorney at law, court is in session. Bitch, that was so cringy, but I don't give a fuck. Yo, this filter is filtering though. Like, are you seeing me? Like, excuse me. Let's just sit down here. Today we are in court in defense of She-Hulk, attorney at law. I bring to you Exhibit A, my laptop that has all my notes. I hope you guys appreciate the fact that I am all She-Hulk glamored up. I'm kind of in She-Hulk attorney cosplay. This is super serious. We are here in the defense of She-Hulk, attorney at law, the TV series. I've broken down my counter arguments into different sections. I'm going to go over each section and then I'm going to review my notes and I'm going to go over and explain to you guys why I think She-Hulk is not the worst thing I've ever seen. I can't think about it too long because if I do, I'm going to be like, why am I even making this video? But anyways, Ari Avengers, let's assemble. First of all, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, which is Jen. What the hell was her last name? Walters? Was it Jen Walters? Oh my god, not me forgetting the main character's name. This doesn't mean She-Hulk is guilty. It just means it's extremely forgettable. But alright, Jen, we'll go with Walters because I can't remember her name. Jen Walters as a main character, the biggest thing that she's been critiqued for is her lack of sensitivity towards Bruce Banner and his issues that he experienced as Hulk. As we know, Bruce Banner is one of the most tortured Avengers. He had a whole monologue about how he wanted to S-word because he's the Hulk. He was unable to fulfill that S-wording. For her to say that she understands being angry and being upset and hating the world and all that stuff more than Bruce is extremely obtuse. Her character is showing a real lack of empathy in that situation. Like, this is your cousin. You see the battles that he's faced and you think that your life has been worse.
I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Is given real first world problems. Although I will say she does have some merit when Bruce is trying to train her and saying that her life is so different now, she can't just go back to being a lawyer and living like a regular civilian. I agree with Bruce to an extent, but I gotta say I think I side with Jennifer on this. Is her last name Walters? Bro, let's move on. I gotta say I side with her on this. She is able to transform into She-Hulk, but she has complete control of her abilities. So why should she not be able to just go back to being a lawyer? And then if she wants to use her abilities as She-Hulk to fight crime in her spare time, I feel like she should be allowed to have that option, especially since she, unlike Bruce, is in control of her Hulkness and her abilities. Now, she does tend to remark quite a bit on, oh, those are just basically like the baselines of women like existing or whatever. Like, bitch, no, it's not. Like, No, it's not. To the extent that she makes it seem, no. It's not like I walk outside and I'm just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh. Like, no, it's not like that at all. There might be women out there that are extremely terrified to go do things because of the fact that they're a woman and they feel like they're at risk. We are more vulnerable of targets. But the extent to which Jen talks about it, I don't think that that's quite true. She also happens to make some comments that make her sound way more oppressed than she actually is. Like, babe, you're like a 20 to 30 something year old white woman that's a lawyer, and you live like in this really nice apartment, like all to yourself. She's absolutely fine. Yeah, she does experience like dashes of sexism here and there. You don't ever see the sexism that she comes into contact with actually affecting her or hindering her in any way. Some of her coworkers say some sexist stuff to her, and yeah, they're fucking gooches and shit. Their sexism hinders her in absolutely no way. Like, it'd be one thing if it was systematically hindering her, like if she was losing cases because she's a woman. You never see anything like that. Like, that stuff doesn't happen to her. There is a scene where you see her losing job opportunities because she is She-Hulk. I would argue that that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. I think it has more to do with law firms wanting to keep their other employees safe. Moving on. Main character and comic comparisons. She-Hulk was not a comic book that I ever actually got into. I actually had to do a little bit of research on her character in the comic books, just to see how accurate the portrayal was in the television show. And I know one of the things people talked a lot of shit about was the fourth wall breaks. However, the fourth wall breaks are actually one of the things that seems to be as true to the original comic book character as you can get. She's even been described in other videos as like the female Deadpool for how witty and sarcastic she can be during these fourth wall breaks. I don't really think I was bothered by the fourth wall breaks. I feel like they were fine. What's her name? Tatiana Maslany or something like that. She's very charming and like very charismatic in her delivery of a lot of these things. And I don't know, like, she's kind of cute, y'all. Like, I don't know. I like her. I like the actress. And because I like the actress, I can deal with the way Jen is portrayed throughout the series. The only thing I will say is after a while, it kind of felt like, okay, can we chill? Like, can we chill? The season finale, which I'll get to that, was a particular one for me that I was like, this is a bit much. Also, Jennifer wanting to keep the world safe through her job as a lawyer as opposed to throwing herself into that superhero role as She-Hulk. Again, also very true, very authentic to the comic book character. They could have done a better job of showing Jennifer actually struggle. The feminist agenda would have made a lot more sense if we actually saw her being oppressed. She doesn't really struggle with anything and she always triumphs. And if this show was trying to capture a female audience or trying to pull in a female audience, I feel like it kind of failed there for the same reasons that a lot of people said like the live action Mulan did not hit as good as the animated version. When you see a character that's just great at everything from the rip, that is not relatable. The reason why so many of these franchises are so powerful and the male fandom for a lot of these things are so huge is because we see so many of these characters go on these amazing journeys where we see their growth and their development. And they did not do that with Jen. She just starts off perfect. If you were trying to draw in a female audience, babe, we're not going to relate to it either because I'm sorry, but I'm not perfect. And seeing Jen Walters succeed at everything she does doesn't do anything but make me feel like I'm fucking inferior as shit. I do feel like she is not a terribly written character, but where I know a lot of the audience was lost, a lot of the feminist agenda that was pushed in the narrative of She-Hulk, it lost a lot of the audience because let's be real, who's the predominant audience for comic books? It's males. It could have been done in a way that was very charming and playful. However, they played it up way too fucking much. Don't get me wrong. I've had my moments where I'm with my friends and we're all talking and venting and we're just like, fuck these guys, fuck these bitches. We don't need no men. We some bad bitches. I've had those times. However, it was just done way too fucking much in this show for my taste. It pushing that message and just trying to constantly find jokes here and there to put down the male characters or to portray almost every male character like an idiot or a villain or a bad guy. It was just taxing. There's nice guys. Can we pretend like there's nice guys? All right, let's move on to the side characters. Her male characters are absolutely underwritten, and they're really just there to be condescending little douche nuggets. I didn't care for them. Like, I get why they threw them in there for the message. Her work bestie, I cannot remember her name for the life of me. Like, she's uplifting to a fault. In all honesty, in real life, if I had a friend like her work bestie, I would not trust that bitch, okay? There's nothing more sus in life than a person who never tells you when you're wrong. A person who's always like, oh my god, you're great, you're amazing, you're this, you're that. Like, no, you're perfect. Like, because I'm not. I'm not. Moving on to one of the bigger complaints that I know a lot of people had with the series, the CGI and filming. The CGI is pretty bad. Facial expressions can't really come through when Jennifer is in her She-Hulk form, unfortunately. Bruce looked pretty bad at times too, which is extremely alarming. Bruce Banner in Marvel films has looked absolutely amazing. Mark Ruffalo, you can clearly see his face superimposed like over the CGI. Like, you can tell that if he were to transform into the Hulk, that's how his face would morph and everything. And I feel like his facial expressions come through very well. And I do understand that when we're going from movies to television, there is a diminishing in product value. It was called She-Hulk. They knew that they would have to show Bruce Banner and Jennifer Walters in their She-Hulk forms. I'm sorry, but the budget should have been established for that. This is Marvel we're talking about. Like, I know you guys have money. So what happened? Now, I will say, even though the lack of CGI in She-Hulk is not the greatest, I do like the fact that they yeeted themselves into it and said, hey, you know what? The show's called She-Hulk. We're gonna fucking give you She-Hulk. Because you see her quite a bit more than I expected to see her. I know Abomination is also in She-Hulk, but the true Abomination was not the character played by Tim Roth. It was She-Hulk's hair. Because that shit looks terrible. I've seen better hair animation on Final Fantasy characters. No cap. It was a very noticeable decline in CGI quality, especially going from watching like MCU films and going into She-Hulk. It wasn't good. The dialogue in the courtroom scenes is a little weird and clunky as well too as you're going through, especially because I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I watch Law and Order. I watch Grey's Anatomy. I watch shows that are very high stakes. You can always tell the difference when there are people in the writing room that know what the fuck they're talking about in regards to these professions. And She-Hulk is definitely not like that. I don't know, they keep things very minimal when it comes to the lawyer, like, lingo and jargon or whatever the fuck. The comedy. Now, the comedy in She-Hulk was such a big issue because She-Hulk is the first Marvel production that has specifically claimed itself to be a comedy. I think they got a little ahead of themselves with that one. In all honesty, the humor it's not terrible. There are moments in episode 1 that made me laugh. The chopsticks and Cheetos being called back at the end of the episode was pretty funny and genuinely made me laugh. The scene where Jennifer is like making her dating profile, I thought that was pretty funny. I do understand, however, that like male audiences might not find a lot of the humor in this show to be as appealing in any shape, way, or form. Let's just be honest. She-Hulk was not made for men. It was made for women. It's not going to be your type of humor because it was not made for you to laugh. It was made for women in my demographic, in my age demographic, and my specific gender to laugh. And I feel like that's why a lot of the humor in the show does not really resonate with men for the most part. However, I can see how if it's not making everybody laugh, it's probably not good humor. But sometimes things just resonate with one demographic a bit more because it's more relatable to them. Now, if there's one thing She-Hulk had a lot of, it was cameos. The first one was obviously Bruce Banner, and I do feel that in regards to his character in MCU, they kept Bruce in line with who his character was in the films. He was still kind, he was lovable, he was caring, and overall he genuinely just wanted to make sure that Jen was okay. He felt, you could tell, an extreme amount of guilt for the fact that he now passed this on to his cousin, and I would imagine so, knowing how he struggled to be able to control the Hulk inside of him for as long as he did. I do like the fact that Bruce knocked her ass off that cliff, because it was like, bitch. Like I don't know, just something about how she handled that entire little training montage. I did not appreciate that, because I'm sorry, but I've been rocking with Bruce for over 10 years. You need to have some respect, man. You just came into the narrative. I barely remember your name. I'm saying Jennifer Walters. I don't even know if that's your name. I think it's her name. Is it? Bro, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know whose name I do know? Bruce Banner, bitch. Hashtag Bruce Banner stan. Episode 2 featured The Abomination. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I saw the first Hulk movie. Ooh, child. I was little when I saw this movie, and I barely remembered it. I think I only watched it like 1 or 2 times, and that's just because Edward Norton is in it, and I love Edward Norton. I know he's a pain in the ass to work with. Yeah, I did not remember this movie, and I certainly did not remember that Tim Roth was in it, or that he was the villain, or who the villain even fucking was. So when they, announced The Abomination, and she said that he was gonna be like her first client or whatever, I was just like, who that? Who that be? And then obviously I remembered when I saw Tim Roth and they explained everything, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's a conflict of interest. When I saw The Abomination, it wasn't really the biggest deal to me. I mean, it was a cool callback. I mean, but let's be honest, it was one of the only callbacks they could do. There has not been a lot of things in the franchise surrounding the Hulk. Like, he has not had his own movie, at least not since he actually became a part of the MCU. It was like, okay, like The Abomination, cool, but that's really all they could do. I mean, he was cool. He was there. I like Tim Roth, and that's probably the only reason why his cameo is like kind of interesting to me. Episode 3, we saw Megan Thee Stallion. Now, I like Megan Thee Stallion. I like her music. I think she's beautiful. I love her anime cosplay. Megan Thee Stallion is that bitch. However, why are you here? At this point, I just felt like anything for the clout. Granted, it's not like Megan was there for like a huge part of the story. It's literally, that's why she's falling under the category of cameos. Now, how they incorporated her into the story and everything, that made sense. Like, it is one of those things that kind of does make the MCU feel more like it's our world. Overall, it didn't need to be there. If it wasn't there, I would have been fine. And I absolutely could have done without the twerking scene. Objection! You got no business here. Take your check and leave. Editing Ari here. So tell me why me and She-Hulk are literally wearing the same fucking suit, bro. Granted, she doesn't have a vest like I do because she's not Slay, but literally the same gray, the same blue. Like, did I do that shit or did I do that shit? Because I think I did it. Episode 8 had the most anticipated cameo. Everybody's been waiting for Daredevil to actually get incorporated into the MCU. Mainly because Daredevil is one of the best television shows that the MCU has been able to push out. Obviously, we saw his first cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home. Him being there in She-Hulk gets him into the MCU in a way that is much more solidified, but it's still just him jumping from one TV show to the next. We actually saw him in an MCU film in No Way Home. Overall, I don't think I have much to say about this cameo. I'm sure it's disappointing to people that I don't have that much to say about it, other than I think it wasn't even as good as the cameo he made in No Way Home, despite the fact that he played a much larger role in She-Hulk. I will say Matt Murdock, extremely hot. Like, very hot. Like, that scene where he's talking about how he can hear people's heartbeats.
You can hear their heartbeats? Come on, that's a little far-fetched.
I can hear yours too. Your heart's beating pretty fast.
What? No, it's not. I'm healthy.
That That was for the girls. That was absolutely for us. Ooh, bitch, my heart was a flutter.
I can hear yours too.
I can see why Jen slept with him. Matt Murdock might not be able to see it, but I could. Was that mean? I feel like that was kind of mean. Whatever. He's got fucking superpowers. Who cares? I will say his walk of shame after they slept together and he's like leaving, I guess it was funny. Him walking with his boots in his hand and everything. I get that that's like making fun of when women do the walk of shame and we're typically walking with our heels in our hands. It doesn't make sense. Like, I found myself more confused by his walk of shame than anything else, because it's like, why is he holding his boots? Like, you fight criminals with those shoes on. Are they not comfortable? If he would have made a joke of it prior, it would have been funnier and it would have made more sense when we saw him doing the walk of shame holding his shoes. But since they didn't do anything like that, him walking with them off, just why you fighting crime in uncomfortable footwear? That seems irresponsible. Now, this show caused a lot of conversation over the politics behind the show, because it was pushing the message and it was degrading men and it was doing all these things, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of was. The writing of some of the male characters in the show is just, quite honestly, literal ass. It seems like the writers wanted to ramp up the idiocy, the incompetence, and the misogyny of a good chunk of the male characters. And for what? I feel like it was done just to make Jen look that much more superior in comparison. If you're writing a strong female character, her knowledge and her personality and her competency will shine through. You don't need to dumb down your male characters to make your female characters look better. And now we're on to the portion I like to call my random comments. I'm just gonna shoot these out kind of rapid fire. There's a news anchor in episode 3 or 4 and her wig is absolutely criminal. At the end of episode 3, Jen literally bodies like 3 or 4 guys, but she literally throws one of the guys in the air and he falls down and hits the ground pretty hard. And I don't know much about law, like legal law, but the law of physics say he did. So lock her up, maybe? Madison with a Y, not an I, but it's not where you think it is. I liked her friendship with Wong. It was different, but it was definitely cute, and I can appreciate it. I liked it. The Avengers merchandise cracked me the fuck up. I do feel like the show does a good job of building up the mundane aspects of the MCU. There's people making bootlegged Avengers merchandise. I think that's hilarious, because if superheroes were real, hell yeah, that's gonna fucking happen. In episode 8, I believe that is when Matt Murdock makes his cameo. During his courtroom scene, it's mentioned that Sokovia Accords have been repealed. Like, it just says it. Like a throwaway line. Do we not remember that one of the best fucking films in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise revolved around the Avengers literally fighting each other because of these accords? But them being repealed is something huge, and it's just a line, just a throwaway line dropped by Matt Murdock in like the ass end of this series. If Jen can just go in to Marvel Studios and talk to Kevin, robot Kevin, and completely change up her story just like that, to me it diminishes everything that Marvel spent almost 10 years building up between phases 1 through 3. You know, we saw our favorite superheroes go through these amazing journeys and have these amazing battles and conflicts and growth and wins. And it just, yeah, it completely diminishes all of that when we see Jen face her conflict and she just fucking goes to Marvel Studios and says, hey, you know what, this right here, I'm not feeling this. Abomination, can you take him out? And can you bring me back Matt Murdock? He's kind of fine. Trying to smash again. It just didn't do for me what it was supposed to do for me. So now it's time to decide. She-Hulk, guilty or not guilty? This was supposed to be in defense of She-Hulk, and I will say, while I was trying to be a defense attorney for She-Hulk, that bitch is guilty. Lock her up and throw away the key. Is the writing bad? Yes. Is the CGI bad? Yes. Is it a terrible lack in quality? Yes. But so is all of phase 4 of MCU. And I'm saying this as somebody whose handle is literally Ari Avenger. I love Marvel. I haven't I have the Avengers logo tattooed on me. Phase 4 of MCU really is disappointing, extremely disappointing. But for people to say that She-Hulk was like the nail in the coffin of phase 4 is absolutely ridiculous. Miss Marvel is trash. I can go as far back as saying that the MCU was on decline as early as Captain Marvel. And this is, again, somebody who dressed up as Captain Marvel and went to go see Endgame as Captain Marvel. The MCU has been losing its quality for quite some time. She-Hulk was never the nail in the coffin. It was just another nail in the coffin. I get that for the majority of the MCU fandom, it doesn't hit. And even for me, overall, it doesn't hit. But I will say I can have some more appreciation for it because I do fall into the demographic that the show was aimed towards. I understand some of the conflicts that the main character faces as a woman, but overall, is it good? No. I can make the same arguments for other things that came out in earlier phases, such as Black Panther. As a Black woman, I loved Black Panther. Like, I was super excited to see it, and it meant a lot to me to see that level of representation. But when people say that Black Panther is one of the greatest MCU films ever, if not the best one, I'm like, babe, are you joking? No, it's not. The story is subpar. Killmonger is a great villain, yes, but the story overall is subpar. It really isn't that great of a movie, and I'm not gonna say that it is just because it did so much for Black representation and for the culture. Same thing for She-Hulk. As much as I was able to relate to it on more than one aspect, as a woman, I'm not gonna say it was great just because I was a woman. She-Hulk, is it a good show? No, it deserves prison. I believe She-Hulk has been canceled. It might just be a rumor, it might not be, but I wouldn't hate a second season. I mean, hell, we have 3 fucking seasons of Emily in Paris. I just hope that moving forward, they will actually give their female characters more of a chance to grow and to develop and actually show their struggles that lead to triumphs that we can truly root for. That's all, Ari Avengers. That's all I have to say about She-Hulk. It is guilty. Lock it up and throw away the key. But yeah, if you liked this video, please be sure to like it. If you have not joined Ari Avengers yet, please join so we can assemble next video. If you have any opinions of your own or any takes on anything that I said, leave it down in the comments. You know, what did you guys think of She-Hulk? Do you feel like She-Hulk was the final nail in the coffin, or do you feel like Marvel's kind of been dead in the water for a while? I love seeing you guys interact with the channel. I love seeing your thoughts and your opinions. I look forward to reading them, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Ari Avengers, disassemble.